Welcome to the Forbidden Frontier.
Randall Carlson did a Cosmographia podcast a couple of weeks ago where he briefly talked about the moon thing, which he has been teasing forever. And then I found out where the Source podcast was, where he kind of goes into it for about 20 to 30 minutes. He goes into what he believes is going on with the moon. The reason he hasn't done his full dissertation, and it's going to be hours long. We have been dying to hear this.
It's a great teaser too.
Of course, they talk about how weird the moon. Its sphere is bulging. It is tidal locked. So we only see the face. The size of it doesn't make any fucking sense. It perfectly covers the sun. It's at the perfect distance to cover the sun completely. It makes more sense that somebody put it here than for it to have naturally occurred. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat, but the current theory that science believes is that another planet hit our planet early on in the solar system, and it's the debris of that planet. That sounds a little crazy to me. I don't know how they can even prove that. That's the prevailing theory right now.
Forget the name of it.
And it's pretty clear, like early on in our solar system, or maybe not early on, something happened in our solar system that fucked up a bunch of planets. We don't know what it is. There's a giant asteroid field out there. There's planets that are sideways. There's Venus, which is hotter than it should be, has an insanely slow orbit. So the moon, he believes it's honeycombed, filled with caves, which might explain why it rang like a bell when NASA did the test drop of a lander on it. It might explain its mass because apparently it's too light.
Low density.
I think he said it's something along the lines of half of the density of Earth, and that there's actually a core in the middle, which how do you know there's a solid core? Like where?
Well, they don't. They suspect, and they're probably right, that there's a core on our planet, but they don't know. Furthest we've dug down is 8 miles, and that's the Russians.
Now, he mentions, he's like, now, I don't think that this is exactly what it looks like.
No, it's just an idea.
It's more, he was talking more about caves being throughout, but the reason why he brings up honeycomb, the size of the craters that hit the moon. If you look at the craters that are on the moon, if you look up the craters on the moon and how massive they are, and then there's this one in Arizona, it's a crater that's 3/4 of a mile wide, and they're doing the statistics on like breaking down like how 50 megaton asteroid hit, and then they compare it to the craters on the moon, and there are some giant craters. Like you can't even see the biggest ones here because it's half dark, but you could see how big they are. And he's saying something that could take these kind of hits that is half as dense as Earth. And then you think about how big that crater was on Earth and what it did. This thing is solid. This thing, the moon is a freaking tank. It can take a hit, basically, is what he's saying. That's why he brings up the honeycomb, because it's a naturally existing structure. The bees just do it. It's the most structurally sound shape that exists in nature is the honeycomb. That's why they use the honeycomb shape. He believes that it would make sense that it would be a honeycomb shape that naturally exists in the moon.
There's a maximum depth. As I think he said 3 miles is it. The size of these craters should be deeper. Basically, they should be deeper, and they're not. They spread out, and it's like they're hitting something like some solid outer shell.
And also, the moon is not round, which
it bulges.
I thought that it was round, and I thought Earth was round for a long time, and then I heard that Earth actually, kind of goes out in the middle, which makes sense because it's spinning.
It's thick in the middle.
There's like a blob facing us. It's like it actually bulges out at us.
Well, that's probably from the gravity. Yeah.
Like
so we have a lock and it's bulging, but it's moving away
1 inch a year, I think.
Randall's at this point where he's like, I don't know what the origins are. That's why I need to go back and do this whole research, because I don't even want to say what I think the origins are, because it's so bizarre.
I like this guy, Matt Bell. He actually goes there when Randall was like, I don't want to say where it's from. And he's like, so do you think someone put it there? We put it here to like fix the Earth. Like maybe we needed the Earth to just have seasonal effect that the moon bring, because the tides, or maybe we brought it here as like our base, like that's a ship or something, and they're living out there.
We are living on either the universe's like lottery ticket, like the luckiest fucking thing that ever happened in the history of existence. All these building blocks of life, and it was all just a big happy accident, or it was engineered.
Because they said the intertidal zone is probably what really started the life. High tide to low tide.
Yep.
And the animals eventually going on to land. Somewhere between there.
The creator, you can see God or whatever you want to call it, seeding the earth, and it's like, man, I'm missing something. Oh, it needs a moon. but the moon needs to be a certain size. It needs to do a
Yep.
certain thing. It needs to be tidal locked. Let's put a little face on it too. We'll scratch a little face on it just to trip everybody out down there.
And it needs to be perfectly positioned and perfectly sized that it will be 1/10 the size of the sun at the certain distance
Yep.
of where it is to perfectly, and I mean perfectly, block out the sun and have it be exactly the same size from our perspective of where it is. And that just happens to be.
And then like he kind of goes into, yeah, maybe we hid out there during the cataclysm. Maybe there was caves. The moon's filled with fucking caves. It's a planet. It's got caves.
Of course it
And that
does.
the astronauts could like they could build bases in these caves. The fact that we don't have a base on the moon is insane if we've been there.
Yeah.
There's
I
got to
agree.
be there's got to be a reason.
We've been occupying space for over 25 years because of the International Space Station. Humans have been occupying space for 20 years plus.
So I fully believe we went to the moon. Okay. I don't believe we didn't go to the moon. Now, if you want to talk about maybe some of the footage being faked and redone, okay, I'm
Yeah.
open to that.
I think both happen.
Yeah. Scientists confirm first lunar cave that could help shelter astronauts from the moon's extreme temperatures and maybe some of the cosmic rays too. And they go over this, and I just really hope this leads to his 10, 20 hour over explanation. What I love about Randall is like he can keep you entertained for days.
I
But-
really liked it when Matt Bell, he thinks that there's a possibility that there was kind of two groups of humans on the planet. Ones that knew what was happening and ones that were kind of clueless, that were just living their life and not really worried about it. And the ones that were advanced, like the Atlantis of the time, right? But he was suggesting that maybe there was this group of humans that were aware, hey, there's this mass that's coming, or the micronova's happening, or whatever the cataclysm is, because there's different things that people think could happen.
Theories,
You know,
yeah.
maybe it was the Clovis people. Maybe North America was covered in these megalithic cities that got completely washed away by the insane amount of flooding that happened. Think about the Sage Wall in Montana. Something existed there. Something giant existed there, but it got demolished, and that's all that we've found so far. Bullshit. There's more there. But what if this group of beings knew that something was happening, they saw it coming, and said, all right, let's go to our escape spot on the moon.
So-
Remember the look on the faces of the first astronauts when they got back? Why were they depressed? Why were they so distraught? Those guys saw some shit and they weren't allowed to talk about it, and it freaked them out.
It was awfully strange, their reaction. These were American heroes, world
Yeah.
heroes. Every kid wanted to be an astronaut because of these guys. They were bigger than
Exactly.
rock stars. They were bigger than the fucking Beatles. They were bigger than anything. And they look spooked.
And you got to think about what it took to be an astronaut in that era. You had to be the fucking top
Strong.
of the top,
Smart.
the best of the best, and go through multiple different career paths at the top to be considered to be the ones chosen to go to the moon first and land on the moon. Something freaked them out.
Yep. These
So,
guys went ahead to become astronauts after one of the test capsules caught on fire and burned some astronauts to death.
that's true.
It was all recorded, by the way. Horrible.
Yeah.
And they still did
the
it.
Apollo programs.
Yeah, to mythology, to like the golden age. Everybody has a before time. All these ancient traditions have a before time, have their own mythology. A lot of it concerns a flood with Noah, but there's a cataclysm that people knew about. Tolkien, you know, in the third age, it's the waning of the world of the previous golden age. It's going into the time of men. You know, the elves are leaving. There's a golden age there. And he drew on mythology. He was trying to make a mythology for England, which there's always this before time. There's always something kind of like Atlantis. Ancient Aliens is a really popular show. And you might want to not go to the aliens part, but maybe there was a race of men that was considered gods, or because they were technologically advanced, or they were stronger, they were smarter, they were faster. I think there was multiple species, Homo sapiens and hominids. There's some that'll never be discovered. And
Maybe-
they were
maybe
at
they're
various
living
stages.
amongst us right now, and we
Maybe
don't even know it.
they were
and
at
we're not
various
allowed to talk
stages
about it.
of consciousness. The Cave of Bones documentary, that's what really clicked that on for me, is this
Hominidity, yeah.
yeah, which were chimps, but they were spiritual chimps.
Maybe Mike Barrow's right. Maybe Mars does have these ancient cities that were a billion years old, or maybe that's crazy.
And
but
they'd
who
be
knows?
wiped
Like,
out.
And
Like,
they would be wiped
Yeah,
out.
maybe
for sure.
maybe Mars has been that way for billions of years, there'd be nothing left. Absolutely. With those winds and the sand and everything. Dude, there's bacteria there. There absolutely is bacteria on. They keep
There's
dialing
flowing
it
water
back.
on Mars. Did you know
There's
that?
flowing water on Mars. Yeah. Well, it
Yeah,
melts.
it's brine.
It's brine.
It's
Yeah.
very, very salty.
I always look at images on Twitter with the rover doing the 360 thing. Like, this is public knowledge now. They used a red filter. If you look at the pictures now, it doesn't look that different from sitting in the middle of Death Valley. The sky's blue. You know, there's certainly like a red tint to the dirt, but not all the time. Sometimes it just looks like fucking dirt.
Well, the south pole of Mars is covered in ice too. I mean, on the moon, and it's a quote from a Peter Cottigan, and the book is called The Moon's Origins. But there is clearly more to the lunar capture than simply bringing two planets close together in space, which is what we're told is what happened, right?
Yep.
Unless the moon was slowed down somehow, it would have immediately have moved away again at just the same rate at which it approached. Either there was a transfer of energy from one body to another from a distance, or else at least a third body must have been involved and taken away the excess energy. It alludes to the idea that there was possibly a third force. If all that energy came in and it bounced off, there's you can see videos of it, right? That energy, it would have bounced and moved away and gone.